Eighth place trophies are crippling our children. Eighth place trophies are crippling our children. This is, of course, the work of the do-gooders, anti-competition, anti-work, anti-America, anti-Canada, anti-self-responsibility, anti-personal sovereignty, self-loathing crowd. Losing is the best. Losing is the best. You may find that a strange thing for me to say, but as a 22, now 23-year pro coach, amateur coach in hockey, tennis, other multiple sports, coaching kids from the age of 4 to 25, amateur and pro, elite, some of the most mentally tough, physically gifted, and competitive men and women on earth, plus recreational programs where children are just getting out and getting moving. I can say that one thing is that losing is learning. Losing, as my father says, it makes us smarten up and become better. Losing makes us smarten up and become better. It takes us behind the woodshed, and it makes us reevaluate. It makes us improve. It makes us smarten up and become better. So in my life, and I mention this all the time to my 10-year-old daughter Emery, there's winning and there's learning. There's winning and there's learning. I said the same thing to my championship hockey teams, my staff at the barber shop, at McLean Insurance, any company that I've had, there's winning and there's learning. I've never met a person ever that wants to win as badly as I do. I never met a person in sports. I never met a person in business that wanted to win as badly as I do. But the greater motivation was, I also never met a person in business, life, or sports that could not accept losing to the degree that I couldn't. It makes me sick to my stomach. Losing makes me want to vomit on the ride home. Losing makes me physically ill for days. I've been in situations where our hockey season ended with a Game 7 loss in the finals, and I was literally sick to my stomach in our basement for close to 3 weeks. I was literally eating and drinking myself to death. I was so sick to my stomach with the fact that we had come up short and had not won a championship. So I've never met a person that wants to win more than I do. But the secret is having that sick to your stomach feeling that you simply can't live with losing. When they talk about all the great competitors that we all know, whether it was a Jordan or a Chamberlain or a Jack Nicklaus or a Tiger Woods or a Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Gordie Howe, you're in all the greats in business and sports that won multiple championships, the Tom Brady's with their 7 Super Bowls, just winners at all levels. The one common denominator wasn't their love for winning. Of course, they love to win. I mean, a guy on begging on the street would love to win. A person who doesn't work would love to win. A person with next to zero hunger would love to win. But here's this thing that separates the 99% from those top 1% champions. Those guys I just mentioned, they simply cannot live with losing. They just can't. They're sick to their stomach and they cannot live with losing. So this is where 8th place trophies with our children, 8th place trophies in our schools, see it all the time. My daughter attends 2 schools. 8th place trophies in the schools. Everybody's a winner. Everybody's a winner academically. There's no more report cards. There's no more A, B, C, D, E, F grades. There's no more measurement. What doesn't get measured doesn't get done and doesn't get better. So there's no more of that stuff in the school systems. Then you also see it in sports. You know, if they have any school sports, there's no scoreboard. There's no who's best. There's no feedback on how to learn. Am I good at this? I don't know. Am I bad at this? I don't know. How can I get better? So 8th place trophies in our education system, they're just crippling and patronizing our children. They're just like everybody's a winner. Nobody's a loser. But here's the thing. Losing is the best. Losing is when our children learn that it's okay to lose, just learn and get better. That you almost want to, what Mark Andre, my business partner, says, you want to fail even faster. You want to fail faster in marketing. It's like, get the stuff out there, get the magazines out there, get the postcards out there, get the flyers out there, get the videos out there, get the emails out there. So we can fail faster. We can find out faster what's not working. But I just can't imagine our children being raised to expect to win all the time. And then when failure does occur, you know, they're not equipped to handle it. Like in direct response marketing with my daughter handing out 100 direct response flyers here in the neighborhood. She started up a small dog walking business here a couple months ago when we first arrived. And she goes, Daddy, how many of these flyers am I going to have to hand out to be able to, you know, have 3 or 4 customers, which will be all she had time for. I said, well, doing the math, I said, if you create a really great flyer and we pass it out door to door, I said, if you pass out 100 flyers door to door, belly to belly, I said, if you get a 1% response, that's very good. So 1 winner, 99% losers. If you get a 2%, I said, that's pretty good. And she's like, okay. I said, if you get 3% of the people to respond to your flyer, that's very, very good. I said, if you can get 4% of people to respond to your flyer, that's excellent. And I said, if you could ever get 5% of people to pick up the phone and call you about your dog walking company, I said, that is elite. That is world class. And then she put the math together in her head. So she said, if I fail 95% of the time with my marketing, I'm elite. I said, you are elite. You are a master. You are at the mastery level. If you send out 100 of those flyers and you end up with 5%, 4%, 3%, if you fail 95% of the time, 96% of the time, 97% of the time, you are excellent to outstanding. And I think that was a huge teaching point for her that, you know, failure is the best. That yes, we all want to be sick to our stomachs, but there's winning and there's learning. If you're not willing to tolerate failure, you're never going to try marketing things. You're never going to mail a newsletter. You're never going to send out postcards. You're never going to have the balls to test anything that'll bring your company. Good morning. That'll bring your company potential new people because you're not used to failing. Again, this is where these 8th place trophies, where it makes it look like, oh, failing is a bad thing. Good morning, guys. It makes it like everybody needs a trophy because if you don't win, it's a bad thing. And that's such bullshit for our kids. It's such bullshit. There is a best, there is a second best, there is a third best, there is a fourth best, there is a fifth best. And failing is learning. Failing is teaching us to smarten up and become better. Look at it as an example. It took me 7 years owning the Perth Blue Wings, 5 years as a coach to win a Barclay Cup. It hadn't been done since 1994. Small towns like Perth have a really hard time competing against big city powerhouse teams, so it hadn't happened in 24 years. Well, how did we do it? We did it through failing for 7 years. I did it through failing as a coach, failing as an owner, failing as a general manager, failing with strategy, and then using those failures immediately to make the program better. Making the program better. Okay, I can trust this guy. I can't trust this guy. This person's a quality coach. This person's not a quality coach. This works. This doesn't work. This weight training program works. This doesn't work. This recruiting strategy works. This doesn't. And just on and on. Why did we come up short? And learning and growing. But man, if I was going to pat myself on the back and say, well, at least we got a second place banner, at least we got a small trophy for being second, that destroys that drive. There should be no banner, there should be no trophy. So once again, that's why these 8th place trophies in our schools and now in our athletics are so crippling. They're insulating our children from losing. Damn it, I want my 10-year-old to lose. I make sure that she's put in environments where she gets her ass kicked. Last year, your kid's a big fish in a small town, in a small community, in a small fishbowl. So last year we took Emery. She loves horse riding, equestrian, and she's a champion back home. She was the champion this last year at home. But you know what? We put her in a competition here purposely in Naples last year against kids that were as old as 14. So she was 9 at the time. So there's kids that are 2 years older, 3 years older, 4 years older. And we did it on purpose in a city like Naples where the competition is much, much superior. And what happened over the 2 days? She got her ass kicked. She finished dead last in everything but one competition. And as much as, the tissue box and all that stuff with the tears, I had none of it. I'm like, I tell you all the time at home, when I look at her friends, I look at the kids she goes to school with, I look at the kids she plays hockey with, I look at all the people in a small town, and I say, these are not your peers. These are not your peers. Just because you're a big fish in a small town doesn't mean that you're good at something. It doesn't mean that you're a good chess player because you can beat all your friends in chess. It doesn't mean you're a good tennis player just because you're the best tennis player in a town of 6,000 people. I lived that life. My parents sent me to the All-Canadian Tennis Academy to get my ass whooped for 12 months. I got my ass whooped by the best coaches in Canada. I got my ass whooped every day by the best players. I got my ass whooped by kids that were 6 years younger than me. I went from being a big fish in a small pond to a very tiny fish in a big pond. That one of the best experiences for my personal growth was getting my ass kicked on purpose. Failing badly. And smartening up and becoming better. So we are doing such a disservice to our children in our schools and t-ball and baseball and football and all these other things with these 8th place trophies. Everybody's a winner. Public speaking competitions. Oh, well, everybody gets a trophy. Even these horse shows my daughter's involved with. Everybody gets a goddamn trophy. And I'm like, no, your kid sucks. If my kid sucks, I don't want her to get a ribbon. I don't want her to get a medal. I don't want her to get a trophy. It's like when my dad built that big trophy case for my brother and I when we were kids. He's like, now fill the fucking thing. fill the trophy case. But then he stopped and said, fill it with things that are colored red. He had no tolerance whatsoever for this second place and third place stuff. You win, and if you don't, you learn. But you don't celebrate it. You don't celebrate the fact that you're fifth place. You don't celebrate the fact that you made the playoffs. You see this with losing franchises in pro sports now. Oh, we were a playoff team this year. Who gives a shit if you're a playoff team? You're one and done. Oh, we had a great season, or all this other stuff. And then you see these franchises that build dynasties, and it's win or go home. It's win or go home. They just simply can't live with second place. I mean, Tom Brady finally retired a second time a month ago, but I think that Tom realizes, that he realizes for sure that he can't win another ring in Tampa, and he doesn't have the will to prepare anymore. Everybody's talking about his abilities. His abilities are fine. He's a biological outlier miracle. That's not the point. The point is, when a cleaner gets to a point in their life, it's not about whether they have the desire to win again. They always have the desire to win again. What Vince Lombardi and Bobby Knight always said is, do you have the inspiration to prepare to win again? Bobby Knight nailed that one so good. He was like, it's not about the will to win, it's the will to prepare. And I think, and I'm not close to it, I think Tom Brady just isn't willing to prepare in the off season like he has before. I think his focus is more now on his children, and not having the will to prepare means you're not going to win when the lights are turned on. 8th place trophies make me vomit. They make me vomit. We don't have any of them in our home. We don't have any of them in her trophy case. I see those 3rd place ribbons and I fucking toss them. I'm like, get rid of that. I mean, if your motivation isn't to be the best, then pack it up and don't play that thing. If you're playing for fun, that's fine. But if you're playing competitive and you're happy with 4th place or you're happy with 7th place, then pack it up and do something else, because you're teaching yourself to lower your standards. And as far as in the schools and stuff, there's no accountability anymore. So there's no scorecard, there's no scoreboard. So it's impossible now to figure out how you're doing, right? Is my kid any good at math? Is my kid any good at basketball? Is my kid any good at reading and writing? Because there's no scoreboard, right? Very, very important stuff. So, 8th place trophies crippling our kids. Whatever you do, the people in your world, teach them that failure is so critical. Teach them that losing is the best. And when my daughter, when she has disappointing outcomes in her sports, when things don't go the way they were supposed to go, or things like that, I always focus on, well, how did your preparation look? How did your preparation look? You talked about, you're going to do this, you're going to do what did your 2 weeks before the horse show look like? And I wrote an article one time in my newsletter about my daughter crying behind the barn after she finished tied for 2nd or 3rd, whatever it was. And then when all the crying was done, I said, I'm glad you cry behind the barn. You should cry behind the barn, because you didn't do the fucking work. You didn't prepare in private, like Stephen Covey says, right? Private victories precede public victories. She didn't put in the focused work for the 2 weeks before at the barn with her horse, and then all of a sudden, she doesn't perform. You play like you practice. Perfect practice makes permanent, right? Perfect practice makes permanent. And good morning. She doesn't, she ends up, with a 2nd place or 3rd place ribbon, and she's sick to her stomach. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you're sick to your stomach. I want to be, next time, I hope you put in the work. So 2 weeks later, she wins a 1st place red ribbon. And I'm like, when did you win that ribbon? And she said, I won that ribbon during the 2 weeks of practice in private. I said, damn right you did. Private victories precede public victories. Do the work or don't complain about the result. But that's what you learn from failure. if she doesn't lose and she doesn't cry behind the barn, my friend Dan Leonis, the world's greatest math teacher, he said, we're not allowed to use red X's anymore, red ink in school, because our teachers, our educators, our bureaucrats, it triggers the children. And I had a good laugh about this the other day. I said, what? He says, no, they're not. They don't want them using red markers or red pens, teachers, anymore, because it's traumatizing to this little child. And I said, traumatizing? I said, I have grade boards with all my hockey teams, every practice, every game. I have physical grade boards in my insurance office every day. Grade boards for sales, for upsales, for how hard you played in practice. Man, I used to be the king of red ink. You know what? B minus, F minus, whatever it was, you are what you are. No more, no less. And that goes into that 8th place trophies now. They don't want them correcting the children or putting a red slash through it. That's incorrect. Do it over. How can you learn if you don't fail? So he teaches our daughter Emery now full-time privately, and you should see it. It's just a wash of red ink. No, 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 wrong, 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 failure, failure. And she loves it. She's like, I'm learning so much. And I'm like, damn straight you're learning. You're learning that failure is awesome and that you need to fail to take your life to the next level. And if you're raising one of these cupcake poodles, then man, they're gonna have a tough life, because they're gonna end up working with a guy like me, or they're gonna compete with a guy like you. Whatever it is, they're just not gonna have those mental calluses to compete. You know, Dan Leonis works with the Asian children, the Indian children, and the Chinese children. And he said the difference, this is just with mathematics, he said is staggering. They're doing 2 hours to 5 hours of math per day, 6-7 days a week. Here in Canada and the United States, our children, they can't fucking add 2 plus 2. I call it 2 plus 2 equals 5. And that's parenting right there, eh? That's parenting. Lost. Mom and dad are lost, and the children don't know where Washington, D.C. is on a map. They couldn't pinpoint Russia or Ukraine if their life depended on it. The Great Lakes, name 3 of them. Can't do it. So this is why you teach your own kid. You don't depend on a government school system or a private school system or anything else. Those are 8th place trophy places right there. So that's my short story long today on 8th place trophies. I don't participate in it. I throw the fucking things out of the truck window on the way home. And I mean, we're always after best performance, best effort. We're always after winning a championship. And when we lose, it's learning. It's learning. And man, building mental calluses in yourself, in your children, and in your grandchildren. Losing is the best. Failure is the best, especially when it makes you sick to your stomach and you use it as inspiration, as gasoline, as fuel to smarten up and become better. Smarten up and become better. There's only one thing that can teach you that, and that's the despair of failure and losing. By the way, when you look back at when you were most productive, when you made the biggest strides, maybe with your business or your physical health, or whenever you've really, you know, almost a phenomenon where you've just really kicked it into gear and you were on your game, I can guarantee you it was when things were not going well. It's when you looked in the mirror and you said, oh my God, I'm a fat fuck, and you changed. Or when you were out of breath walking from your car to your office, that's when things change. Or when you go to the supermarket and you're 50 years old and they give you they ask you if you want the seniors discount. I know a girl told me that one time. She was 50 years old and she walked up with her groceries and the girl said, "Here, I'll give you the seniors discount." She was over 50 at the time, gray hair, tired, exhausted, hadn't, made health a priority. Never again. She lost 50 pounds. She looks now like she's 45. At the time then, she looked like she was 100. So it's little things like that that can trigger you. Man, losing is powerful. Embarrassment, public shaming is powerful. I remember the grade boards in my locker room, A to F, every practice, every game. I don't think I ever had an athlete ever get an F or a D twice in a row, ever, for a practice or a game. And I never had anybody in my insurance agency ever finish last 2 months in a row with sales, ever. The old Jimmy Pattison rule: if you finish last twice in a row, you're done. It's just period. So he never did. So yeah, it's amazing. I never had anybody with 23 employees ever finish last twice in a row. And I never ever had a hockey player who got a D on the board, or they didn't get Fs, but I mean, you could see the trade coming, right? You could see the release coming. If you have somebody that's putting up C's and D's in terms of practice and games on our grade board, it gives that person a chance to smarten up. And if they don't smarten up, well, they didn't learn. So that's what accountability does. Public accountability is so powerful. Public shaming, public accountability, what's measured gets done. That's it for today. If you're interested in more of these ideas, like 8th place trophies are for chumps, public righteous shaming, all these things that are the opposite of what you hear everywhere else, the reality is losers aren't winners, right? 1% of the population are winners. Elite husbands, fathers, mothers, grandmothers, entrepreneurs, and then you have the 99% that are failing and flailing, but they're not sick to their stomach. They've accepted those standards. They're good with it, right? They're good with it. They've sold out, they've phoned it in, good is good enough. Can I get to retirement? I have 7 more years. My kids are okay, they're not serial killers. My marriage isn't any good, but we're gonna stay together for the kids. They've just phoned it in, right? They've just taken a knee. So that's the way the 99, that's called quiet desperation. That's called quiet desperation. You're not honest with yourself. You're not clear as kind, and unclear is unkind. Better to tell your kid the truth, right? You finished 7th, work the fuck harder. Or you finished 8th. This isn't one of your talents. If you want to still do it, we support you. But man, what is failure? What is losing? It's clear as kind. Like Brene Brown said, how can you be kind if you're not clear? But 8th place trophies are unkind. 6th place ribbons are unkind. That's ultimate patronization of our most valuable resource, our children. And if that shit's in your business or whatever, shame on you. Unclear is unkind. That's it for today. If you'd like more information, buy my book, nobullbook.com. Nobullbook.com. It's a real physical book. It's not a book that is about 8th place trophies. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, badassletter.com. It's my Michael McLean world building monthly newsletter. And I ship it to your home or your office, 22 pages every single month. Game changer. And then finally, apply for my World Builders Mastermind. Every second Wednesday, we meet for 2.5 hours. We work on each other's business. We do hot seats. You can apply at badassworldbuilders.com. badassworldbuilders.com. That's it. That's it for today. Embrace failure, embrace losing, and use it as fuel and gasoline and information to help you smarten up and become better. There's winning and there's learning, and make sure you're not insulating your children or your employees or your grandkids from any of that stuff. Winners aren't losers. Make sure that you're providing clear is kind. Clear is kind. Unclear is unkind. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.